All right, my friends, welcome to a very special video lesson for those of you who chose the Snack Aggression project. In this video lesson, we're going to be talking about, in particular, the part of the commercial where the clip flies through the air and attacks the obnoxious office worker. So if we take a look at my project panel here, you can see I have my main sequence here, and then I also have several string outs built. So I want to talk about the construction of the string outs here. I think you should probably do one for every single one of the bins that is inside your media bin here for all of these different portions of the commercial that you have to choose from. And in our case, for this demo, I'm just doing the clip attacks wide portion, bin number 9 here. And then utilizing the VFX backplate here. And then also bin number 10, which is the clip attacks close, which only has one clip in it. But what I want you guys to understand is when you first construct these string outs, utilizing our standard 1920 by 1080 sequence preset, you're going to have something kind of weird that happens when you first put the media into the timeline here. So I'm going to grab all of my clip attacks wide clips here and drag them into the sequence. And when I let go, I get this question: change sequence settings or keep existing settings? The reason this is happening is because the media, the frame size of this media is not 1920 by 1080. It's actually 1280 by 720. It's smaller. It's an older form of HD. And that's done partially so that the file size is smaller for download. So I'm going to say change existing settings so that the sequence will match the clip. So as soon as I do that and I go to my sequence settings here, you can see that I've got 1280 by 720 instead of our standard 1920 by 1080. Okay. I just want you guys to realize that when you go to construct your string outs, you're going to run into that. Okay, so let's get rid of this one. We don't need it anymore. And here's my string out with the couple of takes that I thought were really good for the clip flying through the air. And then I'd like you to take a look at the VFX backplate here, which is just the same scene with nobody in it. All right, so if you look at the background here, you'll see a couple things shift on the shelves when I click back and forth. But if you look at the background, nothing changes. And this is the important thing that we need to be able to perform some VFX magic. So what we're going to do is actually remove the wand that is holding the clip here as it flies through the air, as it's sitting here and as it flies through the air. We can't use the Ultra Key effect because it's too blurred. It doesn't work. So instead, what we're going to do is a process called rotoscoping, where we mask out the wand itself, cutting a hole in the video for this scene that will be filled by this scene behind it. It's a very common technique. All right, so what I'm going to do is get my backplate into my main sequence first. So I'm going to double click and open my main sequence and get my VFX backplate in here. I only need the video portion of it. So I'm going to turn off my linking, copy this with Command or Control C, head to my main sequence and put it in. All right, there we go. Now we've got the backplate in. Now look, my main sequence is the regular frame size that we normally use, 1920 by 1080. But because I didn't drag something into it, I copied and pasted, I didn't get that question. Do you want to change the settings or not? So to deal with this, I have to right click and choose set to frame size, just like we did for the 4K video that we were shooting. But in this situation, we're making it bigger instead of smaller. So we're going to say set to frame size. Now we've solved that issue. Now I'm going to go and get my shot here that I want to use. Get this one, copy it, bring it over to my main sequence, and I'm going to turn off V1, because if I have that selected when I paste this in, it's going to choose the first available track, the first highlighted track, and paste that in. And that is not what we want. It actually goes over the video. So we're going to turn off V1, leave on V2, and paste this in. And now we've got our shot over our backplate. Of course, we have to resize this one too. Set to frame size. Perfect. Okay. Now, it looks like we don't have enough of our background. So we're just going to copy it. I'm going to select it, hold down Option, drag, let go with the mouse, let go of Option, and I've got more background. Drag this into place here. And it looks like I might need a little bit more. Trim that back. There we go. Now I should be able to effectively cut this out. All right, so let's get rid of the part that we don't want to use here. We don't want the clapperboard in there, obviously. Cut this stuff out. Ripple delete, shift and small delete key. Okay, so to begin cutting this out, what we're going to do is draw an opacity mask around the top clip here that actually has the wand in it. Remember, the one below, there's nothing there. Okay, so I'm going to go to my first frame here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit to make this a little bit more easy for me to draw my mask. Okay. So I'm going to select the clip and go to my effect controls and utilize my pen tool here to draw my mask. Click on that, mask is created. Remember, only single click on this pen tool. And I'm going to start drawing it around my wand here, being careful not to draw the mask over the clip. So here we go. Just moving that alongside the wand here. Pull this up. And looks like that's about all I need for now. Now you notice if I get too close to one of the other points, I get this rotation control here. And that you don't want unless you want to turn the mask, which you don't, okay? So you have to pull away far enough or zoom in even closer to get more finite control over that, okay? So now I'm just going to continue with my mask here until I eventually connect the dots. So why didn't it remove the hockey stick? Why did the clip disappear instead? Well, because the way the mask is set up by default, it's going to exclude everything outside of it instead of what's inside of it. So what we have to do is actually invert the mask. So if we go to our opacity controls here and click on the inverted button, boom. Then we get rid of what's inside the mask instead of what's outside of it. Pretty cool. All right, so now if I go back to my fit view here and click off of the mask itself, the clip is sitting there without the wand. Oh, looks like we've got a hand here holding that wand that we have to get rid of. So we're going to have to adjust our mask. So I'll click back on the mask and zoom in again here. Let's go to 100%. And what I'm going to do is just adjust the points here so that they include the hand too. There we go. Gone. Okay, that's great. Now this will work for the entire duration that the clip does not move. As soon as it starts to move, it's going to appear from inside the mask. So what has to happen is the mask actually has to follow the wand, okay? So this becomes a very finite frame by frame process, okay? So I'm gonna arrow forward until the clip just starts to move right here. And you can see as soon as that happens, the hand jumps out right there. You can see it jumping out right there. So that's where I want to start adjusting my mask, right as that hand appears, right there. So in the frame before that, I want to make sure that my mask is pegged at where it was. So I'm going to put a mask path keyframe in here. So what we're going to be changing with keyframes is the mask path itself, where it's located on screen. So I want to make sure that for the entire time before anything happens, that the mask stays where I put it to begin with. So I'm going to put my keyframe here. And then a couple frames later, when the hand starts to pop out right there and the clip starts to move, I'm going to move the mask. So I'm going to click on the mask itself and I'm going to move it and slightly change its shape. So I'm going to zoom in again to 100% here. And you can see there's the hand popping out. So I'm going to change the mask's shape to make it a little bit larger to exclude the hand there. And on the clip, looks like we might have a little bit of an issue there. So I'm going to expand this just a little bit there. Just a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So now you can see that I've made an adjustment and I've got a new keyframe at this frame of video. So now I want to arrow forward just a little bit more, and I have to make sure that I click either on my timeline or up here in my effect controls to be able to move the playhead instead of the mask itself. If I'm clicked on the program monitor here and I start arrowing, I'm going to move the mask. I don't want to do that. So I want to make sure that I'm either on the timeline or on the effect controls here and arrow forward until we have an issue. Now the clip is starting to fly up and it's going to get lost in my mask here. See, it'll disappear behind it. All right. So I need to adjust the mask for that. Let's see what's going on up here. The hand's popping out. So maybe what I can do is just raise up the entire mask. So I'm going to do that by rolling inside the mask here. You can see I get a hand control to grab on and move the mask. And I'll move it up a little bit. Let's see how that affected the clip. And well, we can see some of the wand showing here. So I'm going to expand the mask here, change its shape a little bit so that the wand is still hidden. Very good. Okay, that's the next frame. Done. So now we're going to click back on our effect controls or onto the timeline, arrow forward one more frame, and boom, we have another problem that we have to solve. So I'm going to go up here and see what the hand looks like. There it is, popping out. I'm going to raise this up, move this out, pull this down, and maybe move this portion out too. That looks pretty good. Okay. And how are we looking on the clip here? I'm going to click off of mask and onto opacity just so I can see what the frame looks like without the mask shape in it. And I've got a little bit of an issue there that I need to solve. So click back on this and move this down a little bit, but not too much. Click off, see what that looks like. That's pretty good. When this is moving, it's going to be harder to see the green. I'll tell you that right now. Pull that down just a little bit there. There we go. That's really good. Okay. That's the next frame. Now we're going to move one more frame forward. And again, more issues. So we have to do this frame by frame by frame, all the way through to the end of the attack until we cut away from this, okay? So you'll continue this process, this rotoscope process, until you have removed the hand and the wand entirely from the attack sequence here. And one thing you want to keep in mind is you want to check the overall look here at the fit zoom level here, and then also zoom in to at least 100% and check things out more closely. You can see the clip's getting lost in there. So we have to adjust the mask again to make sure that it shows the entire clip here. And yes, this is a tedious process. It will take quite a while to do well, but this is how you make the magic happen, my friends. Okay? Pretty cool. All right, so what you want to do is just continue that process until you get it removed from the entire attack sequence here. And once you do, that clip will magically just rise up and attack on its own. See how it looks like it's levitating here? It's pretty cool until we lose the mask and it pops out. Okay? So go ahead and continue this process until you remove it entirely. And then once it actually gets to the guy here and hits him, you can see he actually puts his hand in front. And that's a problem because when he does that, his hand will be removed as well because the mask will be removing his hand. So what you want to do is cut away from this as soon as it hits him and before the hand raises in front of what you're removing there, the wand. Okay? And then what you're going to cut away to is the close-up. Okay, so I have another string out here with the close-up in it. Here it is. Boom. And then he kind of reacts and falls away. So we're going to take this, copy it, and put it on top of our main sequence here. And we're going to go to video level 3, make sure only that is selected, and paste this in. And then once it hits, boom, we have a frame size problem here that we'll solve with set to frame size. So you'll want to cut away to the close-up shot here, boom. But you want to time this in a way that it looks kind of natural. So what you want to do is probably get a little more out of this before the camera moves. Boom, there we go. That's looking a little better. I like that. And then he reacts. Okay, so this is the process. All right, so you're going to construct that mask around the wand in the hand and then begin animating that mask as soon as everything begins to move. And then follow it the entire time, animating that mask, rotoscoping it out of the scene and revealing what's behind it, just that back plate, so that you don't see a hole cut in our video. It's pretty cool how this works. And then cut away as soon as it hits him here. Okay? And you can decide what the timing of that cut is, but remember, you have to cut away before his hand gets in front. Okay? So maybe what we do here, let's look at what we've got here. Pretty much that's the last frame before his hand goes in front. So that's where you pretty much have to do it. Boom. Ah, that's great. Pretty cool. And then his reaction is just hilarious. And then he falls away, pulling all these folders down with him. Pretty cool. Okay, so that is the process, my friends. That is how you'll remove the wand from the scene and actually make that clip magically fly through the air. Rotoscoping, my friends. Fun stuff. And that about does it for this video lesson, my friends. I'll see you again in the next one.